When Bruce Lee died in 1973, he left behind an unquestioned legacy in his films. But beyond his films, there is another legacy, in his martial art, Jeet Kune Do. This is not a movie on Bruce Lee. It is the first and only training film on Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee himself. To compile this film, we have had the complete cooperation of the Bruce Lee estate, enabling us to draw, for the first time, from Bruce Lee's private training films and videos, as well as his audio records and his own training and research notes. The film is narrated by Bruce Lee, with additional input from his son Brandon Lee and from Dan Inosanto, the man Bruce chose to carry on his Jeet Kune Do.
My last name is Lee, Bruce Lee. I was born in San Francisco in 1940. My martial art is in Cantonese Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist.
In case you have missed the recent news, Jeet Kune Do, of which I am the founder, has been elected and accepted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame in America. This marks the first time a recently developed form of martial art is nationally accepted. No, Jeet Kune Do is not thousands or even hundreds of years old. It started in around 1965 by a dedicated and intensified man called Bruce Lee, and my martial art is something that no serious martial artist can ignore.
I met Bruce Lee in 1964 through Ed Parker, who was my Kempo karate instructor at that time. And it was the first year of the first international karate championships held in Long Beach. When Bruce arrived in the United States, he had the training in Wu-style Tai Chi, sometimes in Hong Kong they call it Unga. And he had the, of course, training in Western boxing. He had training in fencing from his brother. That's Epee, that goes from toe to head. He had training, obviously, in Wing Chun. And the other area was the training he had received in, they call it Buk Pai, or it's Tam Toi. He knew 12 sets in Tam Toi. And then believe he traded with a Choi Lee Fat man. So those were the arts that Bruce brought into the United States. In the beginning, he used the Wing Chun as the base system, or the first system. But as time went on, he went away from that, started to extract different things from different systems and put it to his personal use. That's why we say absorb what is useful and reject what is useless for you. That's the concept. Okay? He says using no way as a way. In other words, it's not a Japanese way, it's not a Chinese way, it's not a Korean way, it's not an Okinawan way, it's not a Filipino way, it's not an Indonesian way. He's saying using no way as the way. You are the way. Okay? Then he's saying using no limitation as a limitation. That's the concept in Jeet Kune Do. That means I don't limit myself to a Filipino style or an Indonesian style or a Malaysian style. I use what is useful for me, because at certain times a certain art may be useful under a certain environment.
Kung Fu is originated in China. It is the ancestor of karate and jiu-jitsu. It's more of a complete system, and it's more fluid. Kung Fu can be practiced alone or with a partner. Practicing alone, they involve form. Some imitate a crane, a monkey, a praying mantis.
Martial art include all the combative arts like karate or
Judo.
karate, judo, Chinese kung fu or Chinese boxing, whatever you call it. All those. You see, like Aikido, Korean, I can go on and on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting. I mean, it's not, some of them became sport, but
some of them are still not. I mean, they use, for instance, kicking to the groin, jabbing fingers at the eyes, and things like that.
He mixed his trapping into grappling. He had 32 different sequences, as you could see in The Game of Death and the Way of the Dragon, those two films. He's getting into grappling, the face locks, the head locks.
Originally, Bruce taught us various different trapping methods. For instance, if the punch was to come and we were to trap it, we would come back here and we would lock up. This would be the lock-up positions that we would use.
To me, okay, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky, and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean, blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do.
Ever since the big boss, there seems to be a wave, a hot wave, in fact, of finding another Bruce Lee among all types of people, particularly martial artists, ranging from karate man, hapkido man, judo man, etc., etc. Forgetting about whether or not they possess the ability to act, just so as they can halfway decent to kick or punch, and hopefully, knowing a few tricks or gimmicks, the producers will make them a star. Now let's stop about here. Is it that simple to become a star? Well, I can assure you it's not that simple. Also, I can tell you that as more Bruce Lee's films are shown, the audience will soon realize not only in acting ability, but in physical skill as well, they will see the difference. For example, in The Way of the Dragon, my skill is matched with an American champion, Chuck Norris, who happens to be a 7-time winner of both the All-American Open and World Karate Championship as well. Then there is Bob Wall, the 1970 heavyweight karate champion, plus Wong Yan-jik, the 7th degree Hapkido expert, which some audience have seen him in the film called Hapkido. Of course, it is only movie making, people will say, but I'm sure that the audience are not so insensitive as to not be able to see and judge by themselves and compare these men's speed, power, rhythm, coordination, versatilities, etc., etc.
I started training with my dad really as soon as I could walk. I mean, my dad was a really diligent trainer. He always had people over at the house practicing.
My dad had a circle of students that were close to him, and so they were friends of our family. And one of those men, Danny Inosanto, continued to be my teacher, so it was kind of a nice unbroken line.
I have his books at home with all of his underlining and his notes in them, and it's fascinating to see where he drew his sources from, from what sources he drew. He's got books on Western fencing at home that he would use, on boxing. I remember he always used to say that you want to try and absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is essentially your own, and that was kind of his credo in creating Jeet Kune Do.
When people ask me the question in interviews generally what my style is, I usually say, well, my father created the art of Jeet Kune Do.